We want to close out the hour with a trip to Waitsfield. In the summers, people can attend a retreat at Hartshorn Farm, where they learn about organic farming and get in touch with nature. Retreat leader Amy Todisco spoke to my co-host Connor Cyrus about the program. Let's take a listen.
We are a certified organic fruit and vegetable and flower farm in Waitsfield, Vermont. And I speak of Dave Hartshorn as the main farmer. It's been his farm for 32 years. He grew up as a dairy farmer's son. And so it's all about sustainability. So in the growing of the vegetables, fruits, and flowers, and since I've been with Dave over the last 13 years, we've added a huge component of education. And so this farm immersion program is another level of how we share information and inspiration with folks to try to help them take a positive step in the direction of sustainable farming.
Now, some people have referred to your training program and retreat as a camp. You're telling me that that's a mischaracterization. So why don't you walk us through what this retreat looks like and what people get out of it?
Sure. So it's a 5-day experience. If people live within commuting distance, they can come just for the experience and not spend the night. We do have the ability for people to spend the night if they need to. We go into a deep dive into what is organic agriculture. How do you grow plants, in harmony with nature? And so that is all kinds of different topics. We go into a deep discussion about all the different types of vegetables and how to grow them and what some of the challenges are, as well as hydroponic growing. So Dave was a founding partner for about 10 years of the 11 years of Green Mountain Harvest Hydroponic, which is a half an acre year-round hydroponic greenhouse that's at the back end of our farm. And so that presents a whole nother, type of farming, which can be done sustainably. It can also be done conventionally. So I'm a coach. I'm a Build Your Best Life coach and retreat leader. And so what I do is I help each of the participants, if they want to create a business around farming or food production in some way, then I give them a 1-hour private coaching session during the 5 days. And we do also a bunch of group coaching. And then and if they don't want to start a business, they can have a topic of their choice.
Now, why is it valuable for you to teach people how to be entrepreneurs?
I think, especially in today's world and today's economy, we've seen with the Great Resignation that a lot of people don't want to work for others, that maybe they have passions and skills that they feel that they can contribute something more by having their own business and also have the control that comes with that so that they're not, at the whim of an employer.
Well, we talk about farming a lot in the news, mostly around dairy farming, but also, organic farming. What are some of the misconceptions or some of the things that people just seem to miss when it comes to discussing organic farming, specifically what you teach?
One of the things that we observed early on, and this is before the USDA got into the certification game, but a lot of farmers would say, well, I grow according to organic standards. Well, unless you're actually doing the process, then you don't have a clue what is you have to do all this bookkeeping, every seed you order, everything you plant, what's the yield, what do you use for fertilizer, just all these different pieces. Then also a inspector comes and spends like a day. And so really the big thing that I think people miss with organic is that it's primarily about growing a healthy soil to grow healthy plants. This is one of the things I talk about in my farm tours. And one of the other big pieces that sort of dispel the myth, why is organic more expensive? Usually that's because it requires so much more labor than a conventional farm. So if you imagine a conventional farm, you plant corn and then there's a bunch of weeds growing up alongside the corn. Well, quick spray of the pesticides, toxic synthetic pesticides, and those weeds are gone. We don't do that. The amount of labor that it takes to weed, just weeding alone, is unreal. There's multiple weeding sessions that happen with organic. And the inputs are more expensive, right? So if you're buying compost, the price of compost has gone up astronomically, partly because landscapers and homeowners are using it. And so now they feel they can get a better price for it. But it's also more expensive to pay for things like, dehydrated chicken manure versus, the cheap synthetic stuff that we can buy in the hardware store.
This is a fairly new program. And so what did you learn from last summer to this summer? And how is the program evolving?
It was a wonderful experience, and we are so proud. We had a mother-daughter team, both named Hazel, and they started their own family farm this season. And that was just one of the most incredible results of, this program that really inspired them. We also ended up signing up to be their mentors through the NOFA. I don't know if it's the Young Farmers or New Farmers program that Northeast Organic Farming Association has. So we continued on with them, as they planned throughout the winter and spring. So really the whole point of this program is to meet whoever signs up where they're at. So that's why I have a pretty extensive questionnaire, and I want to understand what are their interests. I mean, we also have done community events. We have a CSA. We have a very vibrant farm stand. We've done food festivals and kids camps and, like I said, retreats and all that sort of stuff. So I just feel like it evolved depending upon who shows up. It tunes into where that person is and sort of helps them go from where they are that day to where they want to be. And so we really help them with the skills, but also with the big picture thinking and then having a strategy to get them there.
On the bigger picture of organic farming, how do you discuss and talk about equity when it comes to farming and those who have access and the ability to do it?
So that's a really good question. And I will tell you, the mother-daughter team are people of color. But I think that was one of the things that made us so excited, is that we helped folks that have more of a challenge, honestly, to getting into farming than somebody with a paler skin. It's really hard for people all over the place to find land. So actually, one of the things that we're doing that's not necessarily connected to the farm immersion program is, Dave is aging out of farming, I guess you could say, because unfortunately, the average age of farmers is around 62. And that's obviously not sustainable. This kind of lifestyle breaks you down.
Is that 62 like all kinds of farming or just organic? So that's like dairy farmers, that are like milking cows several times a day.
You got it. Yep. So that's an issue.
Wow.
And there's a second challenge, which is that most of these farmers, their kids don't want to get into farming. They've seen what it's, the toll that it's taken on their parents. And, I think maybe there's a little bit more willingness with dairy farming to get into it as a kid, but definitely not fruit and vegetable. So that's one of the reasons why we created this program, trying to inspire the next generation, whatever the age is, but hopefully it's under 60, for people to get into farming, because it's a dying breed. Less than 2% of the population is even farming. And if we don't want to see it all going to big agri-farms, we need to support small family farming.
What do you think the state's role is in addressing this problem?
There's one thing that they do that's really helpful, which is you get a discount on your taxes if your land is in agriculture. I think that's a great program. Maybe that can be expanded upon. I don't really know what the answer is, to be honest, because we have a housing crisis, first of all, much less a land crisis. The only thing I can think of is maybe a program where second homeowners allow their land to be farmed as part of, a program to help people get back into farming, and then they get the discount on the land because it's in agriculture. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of answers yet on that one. That's a tough one.
Obviously it's a big question, and it's one that hopefully gets addressed sooner rather than later. But I want to get your take on what your thoughts are when it comes to watching this form of sustainability kind of go to the wayside and be taken over by big agri.
It's alarming, Connor. When you look and see that Bill Gates is perhaps the largest farmland owner in our country, what does that tell us? It's not a good thing. I can tell you that much. I know from hearing stories of what used to be in the Mad River Valley here where we live, all the families had their own little farm homesteads, and, everyone had their family cow and their chickens, and, you traded with neighbors. Now we have to rely on grocery stores for the most part. Thankfully, Vermont is a vibrant food state. We have great, farmers markets and farm direct sales like our, farm stand and other people's. However, that's not the norm everywhere, as you know. And so it's a real struggle to try to figure out what we need to do. I mean, I always encourage people to grow their own. All of us should know how to grow food because food scarcity wise, we can provide for ourselves, put the food up, can it, freeze it, dehydrate, whatever. But, being more independent with our food is a really good thing to do.
And last question, kind of an easy one, but maybe a hard one. For somebody who is starting their garden, starting to work on sustainability in their home, what's the most important thing that they need to do or have to be successful?
Well, information certainly is important. Having a good piece of land that doesn't have toxins. And you can get your land or the soil tested. You want to make sure you have at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight in that spot. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there for people. There's YouTubes about everything. I even wrote an e-course on organic gardening that I'm going to resurrect. So I think that there's plenty of information out there. You have to have the desire. And like I said, the land, the sunshine, and the information.
There you have it. If you want to get started, Amy Todisco, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.